You bunch of fuckers. Despite the provocation from the cavalry, no fighting. Right. No fighting. No fucking fighting. No fighting. No fucking fighting!
Hi, I'm Michael Morgan and welcome to this week's episode of the WHOACAST. This is a bit of a special edition. Not only are we joined as usual by my sister from another mister, G from WHOATV. What up, G?
Hey, what's going on?
But we're also joined by the irrepressible Cal Pacino, Ellenor. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing good, mate. Thank you, mate.
Well, you know something, let's address the elephant in the room, because there's obviously a reason why you're on the WHOACAST with myself and G hosting. What's actually, in your own words, what's the turn of events that mean you are keeping us company as opposed to keeping James Gallagher company on this week's Bellator Dublin?
Just an absolute nightmare, really, to be honest. Basically, me brain scans flagged up a couple of weeks ago, and CFMMA rang us and said there's something came up in your scans that the doctors or the neurologists are not happy with. They want you to get an assessment. So they told us to get an assessment. So I speak to Dan Hardy's manager, Wad, and he put us in touch with a good neurologist, you know, one that's worked with fighters before, one that's got a bit of reputation. He's worked with a few bit different people and helped out. So I got trains to London. I went to see him, and basically he told us this whole stuff about how my brain scans had changed so much in 2 years that it was really not looking great for my future at all, and basically just didn't want us to spar ever again. Wouldn't sign us off to be able to fight. Basically told us my career was over and that I had early starts of brain illness and that there was loads of stuff going on.
Oh, man.
He basically told us to retire. He said I offered to pay. I said, can I just get a signature? I says, obviously the fight's in 2 weeks. I'm not going to take any more damage till then, and it's just a fight, and then I'm be done then. If you need us to be, just let us have this fight. And he says there's no doctor who'll look at that sheet and sign you off. So basically then left it. And I just had a whole deal trying to find out what was going to happen, and then it was looking like it was getting closer and closer, and they were saying, "No, it doesn't look like your fight's going to happen." Basically, all I had was a report from my scans in 2017. That was just what the doctor had written about the images, but I didn't have the images. I kept trying to get the images, so I tried before I fought Nathan Grayson. I couldn't get them then, and then I tried, obviously, when this medical came about, and I couldn't get them. Someone tried to contact the people in AFC. I couldn't get any luck there. And then my friend who lives in South Africa actually was pestering the lab like crazy. They were sending him on wild goose chase, send someone else, and then someone else, and he just didn't let off. And then basically, eventually, he got in touch with some woman there who actually helped him out, and he got these images. He sent me the images over, and I sent them to CFMMA. And basically, what had happened was the doctor who originally did me tests in South Africa had actually they'd either misinterpreted it or basically lied on my sheet. They said that I didn't have a gap in my brain, and that I didn't have all these different spots, black spots on my brain from damage or from whatever it was from. When realistically, the scan images, when I sent them off, it came back and showed that I actually did already have these. So that's why they've seen now that I can actually return to fighting. All I had before was the report, so they were seeing from the 2017 images till now, the images now show that you have a gap in your brain and damage, but the report says that you don't. So the report was completely wrong to what the images shown. So getting the images back from Alistair Bishop in South Africa really saved my career, essentially.
So I have to say, I'm obviously no doctor, but I would have thought there is an element of negligence which has actually taken place there, because not only had you been given wrong information, in your words, you'd been lied to, but it actually has cost you a fight to the extent where you thought that your career was actually over. I mean, in terms of taking this forward, in terms of getting some kind of what's the word I'm looking for, some kind of justice. I mean, what's actually happening next?
I'm not sure. I know that I'm allowed to fight again, so that's the silver lining. I'm allowed to compete again to actually provide for my family a bit there. But aside from that, I'm not sure. Like I don't really know. Like I know CF MMA is going to get in touch with them and basically like write to them and not just complain, like kind of speak to them as such, because it's really unheard of. You know what I mean? Like the doctor had it completely wrong on my scan. Like it couldn't have been any more wrong if they tried. And this is somebody who's supposed to do that as a job. Like you can't miss them 4 main signs that came up in my brain scan. So it's either I can't make sense of it at all. But I just know that basically going forward, I'm going to be able to fight again. So that's all that I've really thought about. You know what I mean? Like I've had the worst 2 weeks ever, and thought my career was done. And then to hear that yesterday has just brought it all back around. You know what I mean?
Wow. Well, that must have been a complete 180 considering where you were last week. And that must have actually topped off your weekend. I mean, speaking of weekend, gee,
What's up?
I rudely passed over our usual greeting. I just wondered what you were up to over the weekend. I mean, obviously there were fights to behold, but what else were you indulging in?
Same stuff as usual. You know, my schoolwork and MMA. That's about it. UFC Mexico City had my attention. You know, up until that main event, of course. If you guys caught it, kind of very anticlimactic.
Indeed. And I think before we segue into basically what we're going to be covering on the show today, which is essentially the fallout from this weekend's UFC action, looking forward to what we have in terms of UFC Copenhagen this coming weekend, but also the Bellator action, which we have not just on Friday at Bellator Dublin, but on Saturday as well. Now, you can probably hear my voice has taken a tone for the deepness. Now, I'm basically fighting off, I don't know what it is. I'm calling it Barry Whiteism because I've essentially deepened my voice ever so slightly, a couple of octaves lower. I'm using it now to, try and get some work as a voiceover artist. But no, in all seriousness, I am dying right now. But I've had good company over the weekend because I managed to finish off the latest series of Top Boy. Has anybody actually been tuning into that on Netflix apart from me?
You said Top Boys?
Top Boy, basically, it was rescued by Drake. What happened was, I think it was about 4 years ago, Top Boy was a very popular series on our terrestrial TV over here, Channel 4. Basically, it follows the plight or the lives, the daily comings and goings of how can I put it? They call them roadmen over here, but I mean basically they're drug dealers, and it follows the exploits of these drug dealers, and it's quite moving stuff because of the viewpoint, because of the vantage point. They are actually anti-heroes. We all know, obviously, the fallout that drugs actually have. So there's no way of actually sweetening it, but it's their personality, it's their lure, it's the way in which they actually, the performances are actually acted out by, in particular, Ashley Walters, a favourite of mine, and that make this compelling viewing. Almost as compelling, I have to say, as Peaky Blinders, which kind of like segues back to you, Cal. I noticed in the lead up to your matchup with James Gallagher, you had an almost Peaky Blinders look and feel. Was that like purposeful styling? Was that something which you chose not by accident? Was that something which was crafted and created specifically for you as a look?
Yeah. Well, basically, I work with Master Debonair, and so basically, I'm an ambassador for their company. So like, I get to wear the senders outfits and I get to wear them and promote their brand, like when I do different activities. So say for instance, like when I've got a fight coming up and press conferences and media and stuff like that, like I go in and basically like pick out what I think, like basically with Sally the stylist, and think what I'd want to wear for whatever event I'm doing. Like I had a couple of good outfits planned out for this week when I was meant to be in Dublin, but obviously that fell through. But I've got like a few different ones for other events later in the year and stuff like that. Like we do the races and stuff like that. So it's cool. I always get to wear nice fancy stuff when I do cool events. Like,
was it your entire corner who were going to be decked out as Peaky Blinders, or just yourself?
No, just me. Just whenever I do any press or anything like that. So see if it's like an interview or something, or like a press conference maybe before the fight or something. That's a good opportunity. I like to wear like a new suit. Usually it's when if I can catch it when there's like a new launch lot and wear one that hasn't been put on the shop yet. So it's pretty cool. Like I get to wear some really nice stuff.
I can't front because I don't really watch that show, but when I seen you in some of those outfits, I was like, is this like a Peaky Blinders thing going on here? Like, I was totally suspected that, but that's pretty awesome. And one day I'm going to watch this show because this is what Michael talks about every show. It's good. It's good, isn't it? Okay, I got to get into it.
It's really good. It is cool. Like
Put it this
Okay.
way, G, you might be a little bit late to the party because Series 5 has literally just wrapped. I do believe though they're going to start showing it in North America, I think within the next couple of weeks.
No, it is. No, I saved it. I just haven't watched it yet. I did put it in my queue. I just haven't gotten around to it. But I think I'm going to have to hurry it up because the way you guys love this show, I must be missing out.
You need
it is really good. Like it is.
you need that in your life, G, by order of the
Great.
Peaky fucking Blinders.
And now I'm going to get hooked to some new show on Netflix. No problem. Hey Mike, I got a question from somebody. They wanted me to ask Cal. Can I run it by him real quick?
Yeah, of course, jump in.
Okay, great. This is from Josh Dow and from MMA Twitter, and he said, now that Cal Pacino MMA has been given the go-ahead to fight again, are we going to see him matched up against James Gallagher again? You think later on they might make this fight? Are you going to push for it?
100%. I feel like if you think about the European kind of whole system that they've got going on now, like I feel like that fight was the right fight that needed to happen anyway. For whatever reason, obviously it just wasn't meant to be on that show. But I heard there's a show coming back up my way, back up Newcastle again, end of the year. I know James has been quite active, so if he wanted a bit of time off, it's a fight I would even wait for. I feel like I've trained to fight him. I put so much time into different aspects of my game. Like I really dedicated myself for his specific style. So I feel like I've put so much into it. Like that's a fight I feel I deserve as well. That's a kind of like the level I want to kind of be at now. You know, main event slots and stuff like that. That's where I feel like I should be, and that's the kind of thing I feel like I deserve. And I feel like I work so hard that it should come around. I feel like it was taken from us this time, completely out of my control, and I feel like I've just thought it that much, and I just want to put it into existence and just do it. You know what I mean? So hopefully that is the fight that they can run back. I know they were happy and excited about the matchup, so hopefully he can smash Roman Salazar. Nothing against him, but I just think if he loses, I'll have a lot less chance of fighting James. Whereas if he wins and he's potentially uninjured, then it means there's a good chance I could end up getting that fight and get it soon. You know, so I would like him to get the win there and then hopefully run a battle with me. He said he would, and I don't know. I just feel like that's the one that I want to fight next. You know, I feel like that's the one that's going to benefit my career the most and have the most eyes on it. So I definitely want to run it back.
Yeah.
And speaking of running it back, Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens, that's definitely one which we're going to see run back after 15 seconds at UFC Fight Night 159. It kind of ended kind of messily. Now, from where I was sitting, from all the slow-mo footage I've actually viewed, first of all, this for me was the main talking point of this card. Not only because of how, in contrast to what happened with Todd Duffy a few weeks back, this, I think, one looked genuine. It looked like, you know, he couldn't obviously see. From all intents and purposes and from all accounts, his eye was actually spasming. I mean, Jeremy Stevens' eye, he couldn't actually see out of it. But what actually followed in terms of the petulant childishness, I think, of Yair Rodriguez, further cemented in my mind that, you know, perhaps this wasn't a bad thing, because we now want to see this with gusto. And I have to say, I personally wasn't that fired up about the first time around, but definitely the second time around. And what was your take on actually watching it, G?
I thought it was a legit eye poke. The poor guy couldn't open his eye even after 5 minutes of giving him a timeout. You know what I mean? To get himself together, and he just couldn't do it. It was involuntary. And from what I'm hearing is, I read some articles and I watched some interviews. Yair doesn't seem to want to run it back. He says that he didn't want to take the fight in the first place, and that Jeremy Stevens is lower ranked than him, so he's kind of turned off by doing a rematch. And he thinks that Jeremy should have fought through it.
I see. I just think that Jeremy Stevens is a veteran. You know what I mean? If you watch his fights, he's been in some absolute wars. I just can't see any reason why he, at this stage in his career as well, would ever look for a way out. I feel like he would, if it was possible, he would carry on. That's what I think. I just think he's had that many absolute wars, and Rodriguez's eye was completely different. His wasn't from a poke. I think it was an elbow or whatever Frankie Edgar had hit him with. It was a massive black eye. It's completely different. I know it's shut just the same way as if it's been poked, but I just feel like it's a different kind of injury. I feel like you can carry on when you've got a bit more of a black eye, whereas when your eye's being poked, it's a completely different sensation. You know what I mean? It's a completely different feeling, like, altogether. So I definitely think it was legit.
Yeah. Mike, did you see all the conspiracy theories online about how he faked it and stuff? I wanted to rip my hair out.
That's what I was gonna move in terms of a question to Cal, because you're right, Gino. I saw all of that, and for me, you're either a casual or you've never been poked in the eye whilst you're trying to actually put one foot in front of the other, let alone take on what effectively is quite a formidable opponent. I mean, part what I said earlier about him being a petulant child, that still stands. But, you can't actually take away from Rodriguez's skill base. And I don't think, particularly that, it being, from what it's been described, as a pulsing of the eye, and the eye was actually scratched, there's no way, especially 15 seconds into the first round, that fight would have stood a chance of being anything but unfair.
There's no motive for him to do such a thing. He wasn't tired. He wasn't losing the fight. I mean, we've discussed Todd Duffy before, and we've discussed Chet Congo, but the fight had just started. What motive would Jeremy have to just give up 15 seconds in and be like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore? Like, that doesn't make sense. And didn't he get there early, and spent like $30,000 to train in Mexico City to get used to the altitude? And you don't do that to quit 15 seconds in.
Exactly. He's time away from his family and stuff like that as well. It's like, you're not just going to go there and quit. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous to think he would even do that.
Hey, Mike, I got a question for you. What makes you say that Yair was acting childish?
Well, it's when Bisping went over to him to console him and say, you know what, let's all have a cool head about this. These things happen, quote unquote, in MMA. And the way that he just railed on him, almost as though he wanted to start a fight, first of all, with Bisping, was just such a petulant move. But not only that, from the footage I've seen of Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens squaring up in the hotel lobby, again, that petulant child seemed to come out, albeit that it was Jeremy who actually, I think from the footage I saw, started pushing. But it just made me think, you know what, that whole Bisping and the whole Bisping scenario where, he almost, as I say, wanted to start throwing hands with Bisping was laughable. And I thought he was coming off like a petulant child. Plus, what made me laugh the most, though, was Bisping almost like, big brothering him and still touching him on the shoulder when he quite clearly didn't want to be around him. It was almost as though, when you got like a little brother and you're like, yeah, you know what? There's nothing you can do. You need to just relax, cool your backside right now, because I will have the upper hand in this. I will punch a hole in your chest. I don't know where you think you are. It was almost, as I say, as though he was kind of like sunning him.
Yeah.
Oh, he definitely did. 100%.
You saw his coaches had to bring him in and give him a hug. He needed to be held, Mike. He needed a hug before he could do the interview. But yeah, I agree. I think he was acting like a child. And I don't like some of the comments that he made afterwards. He's alluding to Jeremy should have been able to fight. And the footage that you saw, Jeremy explained later that he pushed him because Yair walked up on him and was like, you should have been able to fight through that, and kind of was contentious at that moment. And Jeremy was like, this ain't an octagon. I'm just going to come at you right now. Like, don't come at me like that when you know this ain't my fault. You know what I mean? Like, I think Yair's acting like a little bit of a diva because he is a huge star in Mexico. Like, people don't realize that he's huge in Mexico. So
I feel like he's a bit of being ridiculous as well for just the way he acted there. Like, he's the one who did the foul play, you know what I mean? He's the one who poked him in the eye, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's ridiculous. Like,
yeah, like nobody really talks about it. Like, you kind of put your finger in his eye, like you did it, you know? you know? But it was pretty anticlimactic and pretty ridiculous. And then, of course, all the conspiracy theories had me reeling. But I hope they run it back. I really do.
They really need to. But, you know, sticking with the UFC, they're pitching up their tent this coming weekend in Copenhagen with a card that's actually headed up by Jack Hermansson and Jared Cannonier. Now, for me, there are a few talking points below the card, like way below the card. I'm looking forward, I have to say, to seeing the debut of Jack Shaw. Jack Shaw has been on the radar of most people who do take in and purvey European MMA. I mean, Jack Shaw coming in unbeaten at 11-0. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he comes in and performs against Noahin Hernandez, because for my money, I've not really seen Shaw in any wars, so to speak. I haven't seen him really being battle tested. I've not really seen him being dragged into deep waters. I'm not saying he's been in easy fights, but those things which I've just spoken about, I've not seen him having to weather any particular difficulty to the level that I feel that may be at his doorstep when he actually goes into the UFC. How about you guys? Are there any runners and riders, as it were, that you're looking forward to before we get to the main event?
Gunnar Nelson.
Yeah.
Gunnar Nelson. I'm a fan of Gunnar Nelson. I like the way he fights. I think that's a fight I'm looking forward to. I want to see him hopefully get back to winning ways. You know, I think that's an interesting fight for sure. The main event as well. I think the main event's cool. You know, but definitely Jack Shaw's an interesting one for sure as well. I'm interested to see how he does in the UFC, like, for sure. But yeah, who else is on the bill?
From a European perspective, well, I would say from a UK perspective, you've got John Phillips, who's taking on Alan Amedovski. And I'm looking forward, I mean, again, from a European perspective, seeing Saïd Bahadazar, Saïd the Killer. I think he should bring back that nickname. But for me, the one which I really do feel will be fireworks, and that's Mark Diakiese taking on Lando Venata. Now, we know that this is going to be a difficult fight for Mark, but it's in his element. This is going to be a stand-up war. Both have a stand-up style, that come forward style. Both basically are going to keep it on the feet, and I really do feel this might be an opportunity for Mark Diakiese to solidify in people's minds that, you know, he's not a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think he's super athletic and he's really explosive. He's a dangerous fight for anyone, really. I definitely think they've both got a couple of different things that they implement in the fight. You know, I feel like it's a good fight stylistically for Mark. I just feel like Lando takes a lot of shots, but he's super tough and he's really durable. But I do feel like it is a good fight for Mark, especially kind of jump places as well and really make a splash. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a perfect opportunity for him. It's a definitely fight. I'm probably the one I was looking forward to most. To be honest, I completely forgot about it being on the card.
How about you, G? Are there any standouts that you're actually looking forward to as well?
I'm with you guys. The main event, you know, has got me going. Gunnar Nelson versus Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert is, on the low, Gilbert's a killer here, and he's fighting Gunnar, so that's going to be pretty fun. But Khalil Roundtree versus I can't say his name. Ion Katel. How do you say his name? There you go. Yes, that is going to be a stand-up fight because they're both like awesome strikers. And then Khalil Roundtree went to Thailand and came back a killer. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, Mark Diakasi and Lando is going to be nuts. And I agree with you, Cal. I think Mark has the upper hand. I think he should win, because I agree with you. Lando's defense is not always up to par, and he takes a lot of shots.
He came in, he took that fight with Tony Ferguson on short notice, and he almost beat Tony. It was
It was unreal. Yeah.
one of my favourite fights of all time.
Me too.
So he's obviously super durable. You know what I mean? He's went the best. Nearly went to a decision with arguably one of the best. Well, if not the best lightweight. Aside from Khabib, who knows? And nearly went the distance for him. So it shows you how good he is and how durable he is. So it's definitely a tough fight for Mark.
Absolutely. And then, we both know they're not going to go to the ground. These guys are going to stand up and strike. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, mostly the main event, though. I'm intrigued, Mike.
Now, I was about to say, moving forward to this weekend's action, not only have we got Bellator on Saturday, but we've got Bellator on Friday, Bellator Dublin. Again, as I mentioned, Cal, is this kind of like a sort of a difficult one to watch for you, considering, you being in the main event, considering what you've been through, and considering, really and truly, I've got it firmly fixed in my mind. And I think I mentioned to you the last time we spoke, I think that you would have actually presented James Gallagher with his hardest opponent to date.
Yeah, it's one of them things. It's a bit like I definitely had to struggle to watch it. Like I'm supposed to be out in Dublin, but I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get there now. So either way, I'll be trying to tune in and watch it though. But it is a bit of a sour one considering like how much I put it into it. I've got myself in the best shape I've ever been in, and it's just how it is. I've got so many people coming as well. Like that's another sickener. Like a lot of people put a lot of time in, took all these stuff like that to come and see. So it's definitely sour, but it just motivates us even more. There's two ways I would deal with it. I would either just let it consume us, or I would just really use it as fuel and just really get back to work and just really push and try and get this fight back or get the best available one possible. So I'm just going to watch it and just use it to motivate us even more and get back to them kind of stages.
And in watching it, just before, we give G a chance to kind of like break down what exactly she's looking forward to, you're obviously in a better vantage point now. You're probably going to be, I take it, in front of a 50-inch TV watching this. But on the actual preliminary cards, were there any matchups that you'd be trying to sneak a peek if you were actually, still at the hotel, I take it, getting ready to move to the arena? Were there any matchups where you thought, yeah, I want to take a sneaky look at that one?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I'm really interested in watching Jake Hadley and Blaine O'Driscoll. I think that's going to be a really good fight. Actually, I'm looking forward to that one a lot. Dominic Wooden and Malambo, that'll be a great fight. I'd definitely be watching that one.
Just on that, I'm just intrigued just to get your take on this. Dominic Wooding, his sparring partner, Nathan Grayson, was sadly cut from the Bellator roster. You obviously faced him previously. What were your thoughts on that? Having faced him, you know what he's capable of. You know his caliber. You know his potential. What was your actual thoughts on him actually being cut?
It's sad. I really I hold him in like a high place. I think he's an awesome fighter, and I feel like it's a shame. I feel like obviously with our fight, I feel like obviously he showed how dangerous he can be. He kicked my head in for a good few minutes. And then aside from that, like I feel like he's seeing when he fought Marambo. I feel like he got off to a bit of a decent start. He nearly had him in a guillotine. I thought he was looking really well, and then he was hitting some lovely doubles, like Matthews-esque double leg at one point. He looked awesome then. Got caught in a choke, it happens. I just feel like he hit just an unlucky stint. It happens, it's fighting. And I just feel like it's a shame, but I feel like if he was to get back in, I feel like he would be an absolute monster. I feel like he could easily get back to wherever he wanted to do. You know, if you just get some more fights in, definitely I feel like he just needs to overcome that little losing stint that he's on. But I definitely see him as a tough fight, and I feel he's a tough fight for anyone in this division. Same as Dominic. Dominic's really good. You know, like flashy striker. I like to watch his fights as well. I feel like he's got a tough fight in his hands when he fights Franz Malambo. Franz fought one of my training partners a long time ago, so he's I've knew who he was for a while, you know. So I rate him as well. So it's definitely a fight that I'm super looking forward to. But to answer your question, I don't really know. I think I've answered it, have I? No.
I feel so.
I just got lost in the styles, and I was thinking about the fights and stuff.
I'm intrigued though by what you said there. I mean, you talked almost what's the word I'm looking for? With utmost respect when you were talking about Dominic Wooding. I know it's your way. I know it's the way that you actually your persona you exude respect. But it strikes me though, this particular matchup, Franz Malambo versus Dominic Wooding, there may be another reason why you're keeping a close eye on that. Because if you don't mind me saying, the winner of this matchup would make a very suitable candidate for your return to the Bellator cage.
Definitely. Super aggressive styles, both of them, you know. It's either one of them. Either one of them's a tough fight, you know. But as I've said many times before in the past, like, that's the only fights I ever want to be involved in, you know. If it's James next, if it's whoever, I don't really care. I just want big fights. It's awesome, you know. Like, these are people who I've watched for a while anyway, you know what I mean? So it's no difference there. This is the league I'm in now, you know. I want to fight the top guys. That's why I'm signed to Bellator, you know. Like, that's all I care about. So definitely it's another one that's a fun one to watch. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that one. But there's other good fights on the card as well, you know. It's one of the best match cards I've seen for a long time. The co-main event's awesome as well. It's obviously, I think a lot of people are writing Keely off, or do you pronounce it Kylie? Richard Keely?
Kylie.
I don't know how you pronounce Kylie.
It's Kylie. Remember, Mike? He made sure that you said his name correctly. It is Kylie.
He sunned me royally. He made sure that I said his name and said it properly.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that too.
Before we race up the card, I'm intrigued. I'm not sure if you agree with me here, G, but I really do see Franz Malambo versus Dominic Wooding as the Black Panther versus Killmonger, because their styles, they've got that kind of like, well, not only has Dominic Wooding got that Black Panther persona, so I think that's a nice tie, and I really do see Franz Malambo as, you know, a type of Killmonger, because I do feel that is one phenomenal matchup in terms of style. I mean, just before we like race ahead, I'm intrigued, you know, at this stage in the card, if there were any matchups that you were particularly looking forward to.
Same ones as y'all, and also, of course, that co-main event, Michael Page, Richard Kiley. Same ones. Of course, I want to see the main event, and I'm with Cal. I'd like to see Roman kind of lose here so that Cal can get his shot. I think it'll sell better. You know what I mean? If Roman beats him, then, you know, James's momentum goes down. And I think you're right. Like, he deserves to fight, you know, main event, big name. And if you take him out, forget it. You know, like, you're on your way, definitely. So looking forward to that. And
again, what really does intrigue me is directly above Franz Malambo and Dominic Wooding is Leah McCourt and Kerry Hughes. Remember, they were on the show.
Yeah.
And one of the intriguing things is I do see Kerry Hughes' aggressive style as being a problem for Leah McCourt. I just love the way, though, I mean, just whilst we're on these two, why I'm looking forward to this so much is I see Leah McCourt as a really fantastic brand ambassador for Bellator. I mean, everything she does online is vibrant, it's positive. She basically wasn't having any of my nonsense when I wanted to have Leah McCourt come in and speak directly to Kerry Hughes. She's all business. She's all, look, let me just deal with training. I'll happily speak to you on a one-to-one. But no, I don't want no drama. I basically want to come in and do my drama in the cage. So I'm really looking forward to that. But just because I feel that this is an intriguing matchup, why would they match Leah McCourt with
Kerry
Kerry Hughes, who
right.
I really do feel that aggressive style is going to be a problem.
I agree. I think her hands are gonna be too much for her, and then she was just so quietly confident when you interviewed her, Mike. You know, like that no nonsense that she's just gonna go in there and upset the party. You know, like I don't know. I think she's the dark horse, and I agree with you. I think Carrie Hughes is gonna be a little too much for Leah. I also see Will Fury is also fighting. I remember him from that interview with Fabian Edwards as well. That should be pretty cool.
Another one who sunned me and told me how to pronounce his name. His name is not
Yes.
Will Fleury, it's Will fucking Fleury.
No, but you know, these fighters that talk like this on the show, I now instantly look out for them when I watch Bellator because I remember, you know, and Richard Kiley and Will fucking Flory is one of them. Hopefully we'll get that fight with Fabian one day because I definitely think Fabian will kick his ass. So I'll keep my fingers crossed.
You know, I really do feel flying under the radar only because there's been no build-up, there's been no hype, there's been no shit talk, and that is Ryan Scope versus Peter Queally. I really do feel, is he going by Big Baby these names, Ryan Scope? But I really do feel Big Baby will be a problem for Peter Queally. I mean, look what he did in his last outing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously Ryan's my teammate as well, so I know exactly what he's like. Yeah, definitely. He's super tidy, super sharp, and he's good all round. I think people just think of him as one style because of what his flashy striking style, but he's really good all round, and it's definitely a big ask for Peter. But you know, obviously Peter's a great fighter too. You know, he's a grinder and he's good at what he does. You know, he gets in your face and he makes it hard work for you, and it's hard to fight against that kind of style and look like kind of impose your style. You know, it's an awkward one, so it's definitely a fun matchup to look into. Like it'll just be cool to see what goes down on the night and see who can implement what they want to do. You know, because I feel like if Peter gets you up against the fence, he's hard work, but I feel like Ryan's hard to gauge that range with. He's so sharp and his movement's nice as well, so it'll be a interesting one to see for sure.
And he's so unassuming. I remember the first time when I met him, must have been about 8 years ago. We went out on a shopping trip. Basically, I was doing a little behind-the-scenes documentary for a smaller promotion called Made for the Cage, and he was featured on that. Anyway, cut long story short, I thought, this guy, he can't fight. He must be some kind of supermodel who's moonlighting and just trying to make a few shekels for himself. Because, you know, obviously as a heterosexual man, I have to say this, man is pretty good looking and he shouldn't be fighting. But you see, that's what's so unassuming about him. I mean, really and truly, looks are deceiving because he is aggressive once he starts, well, when he basically steps in that cage, it's like 0 to 60 real quick.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. He's a really good fighter. Definitely a good talent for sure.
So we're on to the co-main event now. Michael Venom Page and Richard Kiley. I mean, okay, we touched on it earlier, but, you know, just I'm playing devil's advocate here. Richard Kiley, he does talk a good game. Do we feel collectively that Richard Kiley may have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew?
I definitely think it's a super tough fight for him, you know, but the more I think about it, like, I always like to root for the underdog, you know. I feel like a lot of the time it's me in that position. People are always saying that I'm going to lose, and I feel like being in that position gives you a certain kind of confidence, and I feel like he's got nothing to lose at all. Like, yeah, I guess like obviously it's in Ireland, you know, and there's a lot there, but aside from that, realistically, like it's a lot of pressure on Michael Venom Page, you know. I feel like especially coming off a loss like his last one, you know. I'm not saying obviously it's going to be this way, but a lot of the time you can get knocked out and jump straight back into camp and then be taking shots again, and then you come back and you're not taking a shot as well, or you lose your confidence or whatever, you know. Anything can happen, and especially with them little gloves on. And the thing about Richard is he's obviously going to be game and he's going to try and put one on him, you know. So who knows, like stranger things have happened, you know. He could definitely land a shot and come away with something. Like, I'm not putting any eggs in any basket, you know. I'm just trying to look at it for what it is, and I feel like there's going to be loads of pressure on Michael Venom Page for sure.
Do you know what I noticed? I noticed that Richard Kiley got into MVP's head, which is so rare because he's usually the one that gets, in people's heads. And I saw a press conference or some type of conference and MVP shoved him. And I was like, wow, like he's upset. And he's never usually the one that gets upset. He's the one that is instigating and starting things. So I think that works in Richard's favor that, he's already in MVP's head. But I do think MVP just has a little bit more experience with him, with fighting, and I think it's going to be a good fight, but I think MVP gets it done. And Richard will learn from this.
He's the same dude, actually. I spoke to him recently, and he's actually... I'd never met him before or anything like that, and I spoke to him. He's actually a really sound dude, so I'm kind of like rooting for him a bit. I love the underdogs getting in there and getting it done, so I'm hoping he does well, like.
And it's so funny. I'm rooting for him too. I actually hope he wins. I'm not the biggest MVP fan. Like he distracts me with all his shenanigans and stuff like that. So, and I think he's a bit cocky. I mean, I enjoy watching him fight, but I do hope Richard pulls up the upset. That would be so much fun. That'd be so crazy.
I'm going to throw this out there just as a wild card, and that is, yourself, G, when Richard was on the show, he put something to us which I hadn't actually considered before. He's fighting a world champion kickboxer in Michael Venom Page, but Richard is also a champion kickboxer himself. So you can't really look at his 3-1 MMA record because this will be contested on the feet. You can't really look at Michael Venom Page's 14-1 record because, again, this is going to be contested on the feet. But another thing which Richard left me with, or, left us with, I mean, he was on the show with us both, was the fact that, Michael Venom Page is coming off a knockout, and it just shows that he can be touched. But I suppose the most important thing here is it's clear, it's very, very clear that Michael Venom Page is looking way past Richard Kiley. But for me, I really do feel the disruptive style of Michael Venom Page, the irregular rhythm, the way in which he actually chops up, going high, going low with his spinning techniques and the flurries and basically putting together combinations which are a distraction until, just like a snake, he actually strikes when you least expect it. So I personally am going with Michael Venom Page. You know what I feel coming on right now? And sorry to blindside you, Cal, but G has a fantastic push-up challenge which she has created, which is essentially a viral sensation. What I want to do here, I want to challenge you. I'm calling you out for the co-main event. I think we both know what's actually going to occur in the main event, even before we get there. But I'm calling you out for the welterweight co-main event, Michael Venom Page versus Richard Kiley. I'm calling you out, and that is 25 press-ups. I'm going with Michael Venom Page, which leaves you with Richard Kiley. Are you willing to take this challenge?
Definitely, 100%.
All right. I finally got a fighter in the challenge. Thanks, Mike.
Now, what this effectively means is, if Michael Venom Page wins, you owe me and the camera, because you have to film it, and G, because you have to tag her in it, you owe us all 25 press-ups. If Michael Venom Page loses, I owe you 25 press-ups. So just for the purposes of the tape, just for clarity, just to ensure that everybody listening to this podcast, you are happy to take those odds and to take that challenge.
100%. Well, there should be a clause in it because obviously Michael Venom Page is a heavy favourite, so it should be if Richard does pull it off, you should have to do a double or something like that. That's the way it should work.
Ah, okay, all right. Well, we'll put it this way. I am happy with those odds, and that is, if Richard Kiley does actually put it off, I will do 50. Name them again. 50 push-ups. Yeah.
Get them shoulders warmed up.
So you're effectively closing the show with me now, Cal. But you know when you got obviously news of James Gallagher's opponent being Roman Salazar. First of all, what was your reaction? And secondly, I put something out online, and it was something to the effect of, I really do feel that, someone like Dominic Wooding is ready. There's a history there. There's a story there. Perhaps Dominic Wooding is someone who can actually step up and actually take your spot. I mean, what was your own thought on that?
I say it's a hard one, because then where's the kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, the justice for Franz if his opponent gets to just ditch him and go to another fight. I kind of feel like the bout agreement signed there. That's kind of like it's a deal kind of thing, and I feel like it's a bit harsh if he bails out on that when he's obviously trained to fight him, and then it gives Franz like a kind of a short straw. So then realistically, does he get another opponent, or do they pull him some short notice guy in, or what? And it's not really fair on him. So I definitely feel like getting him a last minute opponent and keeping the other fights the same was the way to do it. I feel like that's the most honest way to do it. And good on Roman for getting in there and taking the opportunity. It broke my heart, but it's good to see. It's good to see James has still got an opponent as well. I didn't want to see him with no fight after after how hard he's working. So it's fair. I feel like that's the right way it should have happened. I didn't really know who Roman Salazar was before this, but I'm sure I will after. Obviously, so it's good for him that he stepped in on it. But I didn't really know anyone else who could have stepped in the whole kind of European series that they're kind of trying to build. I've seen a lot of people outside of Bellator asking for it and stuff like that, but I just feel like I don't know, they've got kind of a good dynamic going now with the kind of characters they're building in the organisation, So I feel like it was the right call to get him in for the fight.
And, just on the actual fight itself, I mean, first off, how do you see this going down? Obviously, this is a last-minute call-up for Roman Salazar. Obviously, James, being the headliner, being the favourite, is obviously in a position where he wasn't going to take anything which was going to be too testing. Let's be perfectly clear and honest about this. But, how do you see this playing out?
See, I haven't really watched a great deal of that Roman Salazar's fight. I've seen his record and I checked him out a bit, and maybe I watched one of his fights, and he looks all right, I feel like, but I don't know if he's going to be anywhere near fight ready or anything like that. Like I've seen on one of his profiles that he stays ready or something like that, and he looks like he's in decent shape. I feel like he's got quite a big cut on his hands as well to kind of get down to the weight ready. I know it's a catch weight at 140, but I still think he looks like he's got a lot of cut. Maybe that'll play a factor in it. But I think he'll probably come out and, he's tested, he's fought in the UFC and stuff like that. So maybe he'll come out and he'll be maybe awkward at first until he starts to slow, perhaps. And then I feel like James will probably maybe submit him, I think that's the kind of outcome I'm hoping for. But who knows, he could turn up and try and really take his chance, and really go for it and try and put it on James and try and go out swinging, So could be interesting for sure, but I do see it going the way I think most people think it'll go, and I think James will probably submit him in the second round.
And just before we wrap up, I was intrigued. Obviously, your career in Bellator, in your mind's eye, you've obviously mapped that out, and in particular for the end of the year. Now, there's a show obviously being put together for November. Do you feel that, that's a card that you'd be particularly interested in, considering, how fight ready you are at the moment, considering, the botched way in which, your results were actually presented and put together and actually displayed?
Yeah, it's an option. I've been asked for it anyway. I've got a few different grappling events coming up just before that, so I'm not really sure if that's going to be an option, I'm just going to wait and see what the date of it exactly is and see what they're offering and stuff like that, and if it's doable, I'll do it. But preferably, if I had the chance, I would like to be maybe December would be a better time for me to fight, if that was an option, But I'll just see what they offer, see what they come back with, and see once this weekend's out the way and see where I'm at exactly, and see what the results are and see who the kind of maybe what they're thinking about, matchup wise and stuff like that. And hopefully it is for December. That'll work better for me. But time will tell. See what gets offered, I guess.
Nice. I just wanted to double back to what we were talking about earlier about Peaky Blinders. So I take it you're a big fan of the show, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was. I only started watching it about a year ago, or maybe even less than that. And because all I would ever see on Facebook, social media, and stuff was people banging on about it all the time. And I hate watching a show at the present time when everyone else is watching it because of the spoilers. So I literally just blanked it off for ages, and then I just watched it, binge watched it all the way through, and I've just finished it. I know this season's on now. We've just finished that season there, so. I'm a fan of it for sure. I enjoy it. I like the Gypsy fellas. I think they're pretty sick.
You see, just like yourself, I really don't run with the crowd. So as soon as, the whole melee died down, it must have been about 3 months ago that I started to just watch it on Netflix, and I was hooked. It is absolutely incredible. Cillian Murphy, I mean, really and truly, what a well-drawn character Tommy Shelby is. I mean, just on that, do you think there are any particular characters in the story that you identify with? If you were to be a Shelby, which Shelby will you be? Or let's not just leave it at the Shelbys. I mean, would you be more would you be one of the Italian mobsters, or would you be one of Alfie Solomon's men? I mean, just run us through who you would be.
All right. Shifty, Alabama gold fellas, mate. I reckon I'd be with them Gypsy squad,
Oh wow! Well, no spoilers. He actually met an unfortunate end. But are you sure you want to cut short your role? I mean, really and truly, I would have thought you'd been going for longevity.
I would love to be one of the Peaky Blinders squad, but I just feel like that lifestyle the gypsies traveling different places and riding horses and shit. I feel like that's more the kind of dream for me. I think that's the ones I'd be with, when having little daft scraps in the barn and stuff like that.
You know something? If I was cast in there, I don't think I would be with the Shelbys, because I just can't help but feel that that's not going to end well. I think I'll be a Billy Boy, to be honest with you. At least you can duck out. I don't think they're going to wipe out the entire Billy Boys, but obviously I really do feel there's going to be gloves off once their truce actually, when they make truces, and when they make a truce, it's never long lived anyway. But if it were me, I would rather be, one of the flipping Billy Boys instead of one of the Shelbys, because, they seem to be meeting untimely ends.
Aye. I hope Arthur dusts that Billy Boy. I can't stand him.
It just shows you, though, the power of the actual characters, and in particular the actors, because the guy that plays Walter Mosley, he is one of the creepiest individuals I've ever seen on screen. But hearing him talk away from the screen, because I watched or listened to other podcasts, one being, I do recommend it, it's called Obsessed with Peaky Blinders, where they have guests from the show, one of them being the chap that plays Walter Mosley, and he is such a charming, engaging individual. He's 100 miles away from the character that he plays, Walter Mosley, but well acted. The cinematography is fantastic. The photography is amazing. I really can't recommend Peaky Blinders enough, to be honest with you.
Definitely same. I think it's an awesome show, awesome story. You know what I mean? I do think it's one of the best TV series I've seen, to be honest.
Indeed. So, what does the rest of the week actually hold for you? I take it that you're not on, celebrity or guest fighter duties over in Dublin. They're not flying you over for that, no?
But yeah, I was meant to be over today, but I've got a lot going on. My mum's just been took into intensive care again, so I'm just kind of staying at home, dealing with that. But I was going to try and get a last minute flight out, but all this Thomas Cook thing that's going on is changed the prices of the flights by ridiculous amounts. So it's
Oh,
like triple the price.
Are you
Yeah,
being
so it's like
serious?
ridiculous. So I'm just going to try and get a cheap flight, maybe go out there, fight day perhaps. But it all depends on the flight situation, I guess.
Wow. I mean, this whole Thomas Cook fiasco, I mean, not only are, over 9,000 people going to lose their jobs, not only are you looking at people, I mean, being forced, repatriated back to the UK because, they can't guarantee them a flight out there. But, you're looking at the destruction and the breaking up and the dissolving of, an institution of this country that's been going like basically, close to 100 years.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It is. It's absolutely wild, like.
Man, but there you go. I don't know if you agree with this, but the demise now of Thomas Cook's just seems to be a sign of the times because I obviously you're way younger than me, but I'm sure you remember the days of Woolworth, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah, Sunderland all the way.
And there you go, I would say an institution. I would say is no more. And it just seems to be happening over and over again. The old guard, the old institutions, the old brands that you and I grew up with just seem to be being rubbed out.
Yeah, it's like they can't compete or something. It's crazy, like.
Well, it just shows you really that the power of the internet, the reach of the internet, it actually drives costs down, and it makes, I mean, in the case of Thomas Cook, it makes you the in the driver's seat, or puts you in the driver's seat with regards to putting your holidays together. You could put together a hotel, flight, car. It puts you as a travel agent, so you don't really need someone like Thomas Cook. I mean, hence the reason why they've now gone out of business.
Well, that's the new lady job of 2019, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've seen all these online. What's it called? Holiday. What's it called? Like mobile holiday bookers. I'm trying to think of the word. Travel agent. Like a mobile travel agent. There's some people who I know who are doing that from home now.
Really?
And stuff that on. Yeah. That's honestly. I've seen a few locally. That must be the new in job that they're all going for. Like.
But if you think about it, it just makes so much sense. It does actually create these cottage industries, these cottage economies, because the internet is putting, things like cheap tickets, whether it be hotel accommodation, whether it be flights, whether it be, hire cars at people's fingertips. So yeah, you're in effect, by the very virtue of the fact that you can put these packages together yourself or create a cottage industry around it, that is actually leading to the demise of these older establishments.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. It's a good thing and a bad thing, really, isn't it? It's a bit of a nightmare for the old industries and stuff like that. Like as you say, the old like the Thomas Cooks and stuff like that. But at the same time, for the customer, I guess it's much better. Obviously, you've got your own free range and you're going to save money. So I guess it's a pros and cons, isn't it, of the whole thing?
Exactly. Well, that about wraps up this week's edition of the WHOACAST. It's been such a pleasure kicking it with not just G from WHOTV, who had to cut her weekly stint with me short as priorities obviously being the order of the day. I do understand that. But also it was a pleasure being joined by Cal Pacino, Ellenor. Cal, how can people reach out to you on Twitter or social media? How can people get in touch and actually chew the fat with you, continue conversations which we started here this week?
Just add us on Twitter or on my Instagram, Cal Pacino MMA, and I get back to everyone, I just give a message on there or follow us and just have a bit of crack on with us on there, no bother at all.
Fantastic. And as usual, listeners can get me on Mike WHOTV on Twitter. Until next week, make some trouble.
Oh.